Hi guys, and sorry it's been so long for this video and my uploads. Christmas was a weird time and I wanted to take some time off to do things I wanted to do and spend a bit more time with my family, and I hope people understand. Now, also another apologies for how long it took me to get this next part out. I kind of didn't know where to take the story. I didn't know if I wanted to go with just kind of an anime approach going through the gym challenge or try having some sort of story to go along with it. It took me a little bit, but I decided to try and have some sort of plot go along with the story, and I hope people don't mind that this means there might be a few changes. With that all being said though, let's get going. Now, we join our heroes with Ash and Brock on their way over to Mount Moon, as Ash spends his time battling against any trainer he can find and using Brock as a good sparring partner. The pair, after a while, make it to Mount Moon, and during their short trip they actually became pretty good friends. But Brock's confused to see the entrance to Mount Moon lit up, quite brightly in fact, and upon further investigation they find lights lighting up the entire tunnel. Both Brock and Ash find something weird about this, but don't think too much of it, as they head into the naturally formed structure. At first things seem normal other than the lights. However, after getting into a deeper part of the cave, they come across some weird people, wearing black outfits and an R on their chest. And at first they're not noticed, as they watch these people move large amounts of Pokemon into cages. They can also see someone being held hostage. Ash and Brock are shocked at what they are seeing, as Brock tries to think about leaving to call the cops and get some backup. However, Ash in a moment of anger shouts out to the people in the cave, grabbing all of their attention. Ash grabs both of his Pokeballs, throwing out both Nidoran and Spearow, who sees what's going on and get ready to fight. Brock, not wanting to leave his friends, sends out Onix and Golem, as the pair shout out for the weirdos to let all these Pokemon go alongside that man. Of course, the grunts just look at one another and laugh as they throw out a couple of Pokeballs, with Pokemon consisting of Zubat, Raticate, Ekans and Koffing all appear. Ash and Brock feel nervous, however they start giving their team orders to start taking down multiple Pokemon. Onix and Golem are carrying the brunt of the work, however Spearow and Nidoran are picking off some that they can, and it isn't an easy feat, but using their teamwork they manage to take down most of these weak Pokemon. Of course their teams did receive good bits of damage. With the grunts seeing this, they laugh a little bit as a few more grunts approach, throwing out a couple dozen Pokemon, and these all are much stronger. Some of them are evolved forms of Pokemon they had just seen, some of them are the same Pokemon but are clearly much better trained, as the pair start fighting off a couple dozen Pokemon, and these stronger Pokemon pose a much more threatening challenge, as slowly our heroes' teams are getting overpowered. Both Ash and Brock are nervous, not wanting to lose, and one grunt taunts the pair, saying how after they defeat their mons, not only will they steal them, but they'll also leave them here to rot. Ash looks towards his two Pokemon, worried at this point. Both Spearow and Nidoran are very badly hurt. Ash in a panic wants to try run away, but understands they will be chased and more than likely catched. So Ash looks at Nidoran, shouts out asking if they can use it. Nidoran understands immediately and looks scared, but he sees Spearow and his other friends injured, and nods. Ash calls out for a thrash, surprising Brock that this Pokemon he has got to know quite well over a few days of travel has such a high-powered move. Nidoran's eyes flash red for a moment as it rushes towards an opposing Pokemon, landing multiple hits on an Arbok and putting it to the ground. As the Poison Pin Pokemon then jumps off from the Arbok, hitting another group of Zubat. He then jumps down towards Spearow, landing a few hits there, and also hitting Onix a few times, before jumping back into the crowd of opposing Pokemon, landing some serious damage. The Pokemon misses quite a few hits, however the small bundle of Fury deals some serious damage, managing to take down a few high level Pokemon, and with the support of Golem and Onix they're actually taking down a few of these high level Pokemon. But at this point, Nidoran jumps towards Ash, getting ready to start attacking his trainer, who begins to panic, but gets ready to catch his friend. But then a Pokemon that neither Brock or Ash have ever seen before appears, stopping Nidoran. and an old voice tells Ash to calm his Pokemon. Ash, confused but not wanting to waste his opportunity, runs over, grabbing Nidoran from behind, who continues to thrash for a few seconds before calming down and looking around scared. Ash sees Nidoran is mostly okay, explaining how he was a big help, as Spearow and Onix screech out, showing that they're mostly fine after getting hit by Nidoran a couple of minutes ago. Ash looks at this weird Pokemon that had just appeared in front of him, and finally seeing it in a better angle. This Pokemon looks very familiar, almost like a Marowak, but the colours are wrong and its bone's on fire, as an old woman appears from the distance, telling both Ash and Brock they did a good job, but she'll handle it from here. As the pair finally see the woman, Ash recognises her as Agatha from the Elite Four. He verbally shouts this out, and all the grunts around go pale at hearing this, as Agatha shouts out for her Marowak to use Shadow Ball, with the attack firing off a blast, knocking away all opposing Pokemon. The grunts seeing this panic, recalling their Pokemon and grabbing a massive bag. As one grunt calls for a tactical retreat, they all begin to run as fast as they can. Agatha laughs before looking towards Marowak, saying to chase them out of the mountain and make sure they don't hurt any other Pokemon. The Pokemon nods as it follows them out, running at a surprisingly fast speed. Ash and Brock run over to free the hostage while this was all happening, who thanks them for saving him, and then introduces himself as Seymour, a scientist who studies Clefairy and their interaction with the Moonstone, explaining how a few days ago this group that they just fought off showed up and not only tried to steal as many Pokemon as they could, but started mining the mountain for its natural Moonstone resources. He tried to stop them, knowing how important the Moonstone is to some Pokemon. However, they just tied him up and made him watch while they took as many Moonstones as Pokemon as they possibly could. Ash, hearing this, is annoyed. Ash understands in this timeline the importance of Moonstones and the environment Pokemon live in. So, hearing how this group had damaged it and destroyed a Pokemon's habitat hits him a lot harder than it would in the original timeline. Agatha, who begins to release all captured Pokemon, shouts out for the three to come over to him, asking to see their Pokemon. As both Ash and Brock call out their team once again, Agatha gives all the Pokemon present a citrus berry, healing them up from all the damage they had taken in the fight. She then begins to scold all three of them, saying how it was very irresponsible for them to challenge Team Rocket without a plan, or without backup. However, she also understands that they did what they did out of the goodness of their hearts, and just tells them that next time to be more responsible and call the police, who are designed to deal with people like Team Rocket. The pair agree, thanking Agatha for her help, as that Pokemon from before appears once again. Ash, seeing this, takes out his Pokédex, scanning them on. However, no data appears, which is confusing to him. But this doesn't go unnoticed, as Agatha sees the boy's Pokédex, asking how he got it. Ash explains how he was actually sponsored by Professor Oak, and part of his starting a gear was the Pokédex. It's to help him understand Pokemon better off. However, he understands most of the Pokemon from Kanto, and he doesn't recognise this Pokemon. It looks a lot like a Marowak, but it's not a Marowak at the same time. Agatha laughs a little bit, saying how he's got a keen eye, but this is in fact a Marowak. But this Marowak was born in the Alola region, making it something called a regional variant. It's a lot to go over, however, there are Pokemon which have regional variants, and they will have different types and abilities to what he's more used to in Kanto. Ash interested in hearing more asks Agatha if she can go into a bit more detail. However, the woman explains how she can't get into it too much right now. She wants to chase down that group that had just escaped. However, if they're ever in Lavender Town, she will love to share some information to the kids about the Pokemon, telling them to be careful, and if they see Team Rocket again, to 100% call the cops and not get involved. As Agatha begins to leave, she tells Ash to tell the Professor hi next time they talk. Confusing Ash, but he agrees. As the pair thank Agatha again, Ash is a bit starstruck, while Brock thanks Gollum and Onix for their good work. Ash clicks back to reality and does the same to Nidoran and Spearow. Seymour checks on the wild Pokemon that had just been released. Most of them are unharmed, however, they do have some bruises here and there. As he tells them all to start leaving, they begin to spread out amongst the cave again. And Seymour is happy to see most of them are unharmed. but he does know that some Pokemon were taken, and he hopes that they will be freed or saved at some point. As he looks towards the two trainers who had just helped him, he thanks them again, as he looks towards Ash, saying how it isn't much, but for saving him he wants to give him something, as he grabs a small little pouch in his pocket, handing over a Moonstone to Ash. The trainer instantly recognises this, knowing this is something that Nidorino needs to become a Nidoking, but Ash also understands it would be okay for him to take this. After all, Clefairy had just lost a lot of their Moonstones from the cave, and without them they could suffer a little bit. Seymour explains that buried deeper in the cave there is a huge piece of Moonstone. Won't be missed too much. Ash, hearing this, thanks Seymour as he puts it in a container into his bag. Seymour once again thanks the group, saying how next time that Rocket shows up he'll be strong enough to defend them by himself, as the scientist tells the two to be safe on their travels, as he begins to take down the lights scattered around the cave. Ash thanks Seymour once again before the pair leave the cave. The pair talk about what they had just seen in the cave, and it makes them a bit worried about what this Team Rocket organisation truly could be. But beyond that, Brock asks why Ash had never used Thrash before, in any battle or in the gym, as Ash explains briefly that Nidoran can't control the power, something to do with the move being a very strong one, and his ability has led to him really not having any hold on the ability, so he's made a deal with Nidoran to not use it until they feel much more comfortable and ready. Brock, hearing this, sees the logic in it, as he tells Ash if he ever wants to train that move, he's more than free to use Golem or Onyx as a almost punching bag. Thanks to them being rock types, the normal type move won't have much effect on them. Ash, hearing this, thanks Brock a lot, as he says he'll consider the offer. After a short trip, they make it out of the cave, with them only ever stopping to battle trainers or for them to eat. After a while, they arrive in Cerulean City, where the first thing they do is check in at a Pokemon Center. While their Pokemon are getting checked on, Ash actually calls Professor Oak. He's curious about these regional variants Agatha had told him about, so he calls up Oak. The Professor is happy to hear from Ash. After all, it had been a little bit since he had heard from them, as he explains how the other trainers had actually not long passed through Cerulean City, so Ash had kept up his deal and managed to close the gap considerably, as he asks the trainer if he made any new catches, if he's taken on the gym, checking in on his protege. Ash explains how he'd only just arrived and called in to ask a few questions about something called a regional variant. Oak's face lights up, asking the boy how he learnt about it. Ash explains that he had ran into a member of the Elite Four, Agatha. She had this Alolan Marowak, it seemed really interesting, and she also said to say hello, asking if they knew each other. Oak smiles a bit, saying how they actually used to be rivals back when Oak took on the gym challenge not too long ago, and they are actually old friends who haven't caught up in a while. Oak goes on to explain how there are two regions where the regional variant phenomenon is known as. There is the Galar region, where Pokemon like Koffing and Ponyta have different variations to their usual counterparts. There is also the Alola region, the one he had just learnt about. Pokemon like Dugtrio, Executor, and even Marowak have regional variants. The regional variant gives a Pokemon a different type, ability, and also gives them a new look most of the time. The phenomenon seems to happen when the Pokemon is brought up in a much different environment than it was used to, meaning it got brought up around different sort of atmosphere. It could be that they needed to adapt in a different way to survive in the harsh environment of the other region, or it could be that they just better suited that form over there. There's multiple different reasons, and Oak hasn't looked into it too much, since Alola or Galarian Pokemon are pretty hard to come by. But if his friend Agatha has one, he might be paying her a visit in Lavender Town some point soon. Ash laughs at the Professor, who has never changed and still finds Pokemon very interesting, as he tells Oak thank you for filling him in a little bit. Oak tells Ash it wasn't a problem, and to call in as soon as he has made it to the next town. Hopefully he'll run into one of the others on his journey. With Ash having finished his call, and his Pokemon having been healed, he has to drag Brock away from Nurse Joy. However, Brock doesn't put up too much of a fight here, as they start heading over towards the Cerulean City gym, where Ash is excited to have his gym battle while Brock looked forward to seeing an old friend again, as they arrive pretty fast. And unfortunately for Ash, much like in canon, the sisters have no usable Pokemon ready, and actually offer up the badge to Ash. The trainer is annoyed and actually declines, saying how he wants to earn all of his badges in the most legit way possible, saying how he'll do a few gyms and then come back. The girls are happy to hear that he wasn't just willing to take it, but also kind of annoyed that means they have a fight booked in for the future, as they tell Ash good luck on his journey, and then explain to Brock that they had actually just missed Misty. She had head off to the Pokemon Center to just get her Pokemon healed up after a bit of a training session, as the trainers realised they had probably just missed one another. So Brock and Ash, a bit annoyed, leave, with Ash annoyed that he's had to miss his gym, but also not wanting to take the badge for free. So he heads off, thinking that he can at least get the next gym badge while he waits. Now, the pair arrive at the Pokemon Center, where Brock finally finds Misty. The two catch up very quickly, as Brock introduces Ash to his friend, and explains how he's a gym challenger, who was his father's first battle back as a gym leader. Misty and Ash go for a small hello and introduction, and she's interested to hear how Ash turned down a free gym badge from her sisters, as the trio spend a small bit of time talking, before Brock asks where he will be going next. The trainer explains that he wants to be heading to the nearest gym, which he believes to be Vermilion City, and after a small bit of discussion, Brock and Misty decide to accompany Ash. Not having any real goals at the moment other than to have a small bit of a travel, they think this could be a bit of fun. Not unbeknownst to Brock, Misty is actually considering taking on the gym challenge herself, after defeating Brock in his final gym battle, and feeling the rush and how much she improved throughout the battle. She is actually considering doing it just to see how far she can push herself, and test the limits of her becoming the world's strongest water trainer. But for now, that's kind of kept to herself. Eventually the group leave Cerulean City, where we see some things play out like normal. Ash and AJ battle, where that episode plays out mostly the same. Also, the Poker School episode plays out somewhat similar. However, Ash is actually a bit more annoyed, with AJ putting his Pokemon through very dangerous training, and also more annoyed with the students at the school, who believe that type matchups are everything, and Ash even proves it in his battle. Now, things play out pretty normal up until the episode Bulbasaur in the Hidden Village, where the start of this episode plays out mostly the same. However, without Team Rocket present after the group just spend the episode helping Elaine set up some traps, as Brock helps tend to any injured Pokemon, and Ash actually makes up a big batch of food for most of the grass types and some of the water types. He's pretty proficient with this cooking sort of style, thanks to all of the time he has spent training under Oak. He understands this a little better. And thanks to this, Ash actually manages to win over Bulbasaur, thanks to him showing off not only his really kind-hearted nature, but also being a good, knowledgeable trainer. It wins over Bulbasaur, who after talking to Melina, joins Ash's team like canon. Next we see the group come across Charmander. Like normal, nothing here would change near the start. However, after hearing Damien talk about leaving Charmander, Ash is annoyed, more than in canon. However, he doesn't flip out. He just walks out of the Pokemon Center and rushes off towards Charmander. However, while Ash does this, Brock confronts Damien, much like normal. Things end mostly the same there, before Brock runs off to catch up with his friend. Ash arrives at Charmander first, and covers the Charmander's tail with his jacket, as the group managed to save Charmander a lot more successfully, leaving Charmander in better condition than in canon. And thanks to Ash being trained to possibly raise a Charmander, he actually understands how to stabilise it a bit better, meaning Charmander not only gets support from Nurse Joy, Brock, but also Ash in this timeline, which helps considerably. Now, once Charmander is stable, Ash heads out and begins to search for Damien, who is still present at the Pokemon Center, means though it's raining he hasn't headed out. And Ash confronts Damien, screaming towards the trainer how Charmander was willing to die under the impression that his trainer would return, and his loyalty towards Damien was amazing. It was a shame that Charmander had wasted it on such a scumbag like Damien. Damien laughs, saying how Charmander was weak and a wasted slot on his team. Ash is truly annoyed. Ash, truly annoyed, says if he sees Pokemon as something that can be thrown away like that, He truly is a terrible trainer who doesn't deserve the loyalty of such an amazing Pokemon. Damien scoffs, saying how he doesn't care what the trainer has to say, before getting up and beginning to walk away. Ash, though, isn't finished. He shouts out to Damien, challenging him to a battle. Ash says if he wins, Damien has to tell Charmander the truth. Damien, annoyed but interested, asks what Ash can offer to him. Ash doesn't know, as Damien gives Ash a bit of a scan up and down, and says how he would like to take the Pokédex of his. Could be interested in fun. Ash doesn't really want to let go of it, but he knows Charmander needs to hear that his trainer abandoned him. It'll be the only way he ever lets him go. So Ash agrees. Brock calls him out for being a bit reckless, but he explains that he needs to do it for Charmander. Ash steps outside with Damien, agreeing that a one-on-one battle will all it'll be. The rain still falls, as Ash calls out his first Pokemon being Nidoran. Damien, laughing, calls out his first Pokemon, being a Torracat. Ash has no idea what this Pokemon is, as he looks at it and even pulls out the Pokédex, realising that he has no information on it. Damien laughs, saying how the Pokédex doesn't even realise what Pokemon this is. Maybe it isn't worth his time. Ash verbally groans as he calls out for Nidoran to use a Poison Sting. The Pokemon moves at super fast speed, going to hit Torracat, but misses just by a few inches. Damien then calls out for an Ember, which hits Nidoran. However, the effects are weakened thanks to the rain. Ash calls for a Leer and then a double kick, as Nidoran's eyes shine briefly, and then the Pokemon jumps towards Torracat, landing one hit and then another, sending the cat sliding away. Damien, pissed off, calls for a bite, as Torracat uses its bigger size and quite good speed to close the distance between himself and Nidoran, and crunch down on the small Poison Pin Pokemon. As it screams out in pain, Ash calls for Nidoran to use a Poison Sting in close proximity. The Pokemon can't land a hit though, as it flinches from the attack. Damien laughs as he calls out for a Fire Fang, while he's still got Nidoran in its grasp. The mouth of Torracat burns up, and a massive blaze overcomes Nidoran, as Torracat then flings the Poison Pin Pokemon away from it. It smugly sits as Nidoran pulls itself to its feet, looking back at Ash, before looking back towards Torracat. Ash shouts out to see if Nidoran's alright, as the Pokemon nods. Ash calls for another Poison Sting, as the Pokemon rushes towards Torracat, landing the blow. However, it doesn't seem to hurt Torracat that much, as Nidoran then erupts in flames. Ash understands that his partner's burnt and doesn't know what to do. Damien begins to taunt, saying how he can't wait to have that Pokédex, and hopefully that stupid Charmander will leave him alone after this. He calls out for his Torracat to go in for another Fire Fang, so Pokemon rushes towards Nidoran and crunches down on it once again before flinging it away. Nidoran then feels the effects of burn and falls to the ground. Ash pleads for Nidoran to get up, however the Pokemon's almost unresponsive. Misty's about to declare Damien the winner, however Nidoran begins to pull itself up off the ground and its body starts to glow. Ash is amazed, understanding what this is immediately, as Damien can't believe his eyes. Suddenly, Nidoran begins to evolve, and after a few seconds, it finally becomes a Nidorino. The Pokemon lets out a powerful cry. Ash screams out in victory. Nidorino looks at his trainer, giving a nod. Ash thanks Nidorino as they turn their attention back towards Damien. The trainer calls out for a Fire Fang. Nidorino doesn't falter though, as it starts rushing towards Torracat, and just before it can land a hit, Nidorino jumps into the air and slams its tail straight into the back of Torracat, crushing it into the ground and knocking it out in one hit. As Ash realises that Nidorino had learnt Poison Tail upon evolving, as Misty gives the count, calling Ash the winner, Damien falls to his knees, recalling Torracat, and then looking at Ash, who stares down Damien, telling him he better tell Charmander the truth. Damien, about to leave with not keeping his end of the deal, is stopped by Brock, who tells him he better keep it, escorting him back inside as the 4 trainers wait inside the Pokemon Center, with Ash going to wait in the room with Charmander while he sleeps. As Ash sits watching Charmander for most of the night, eventually the small fire type wakes up and is given some food by Ash, who assumed that the small lizard would be hungry after probably not having eaten the day before. Charmander cautiously grabs the first bit of food, eating it, but then begins to scoff down the rest of the bowl, letting out a small cheer once it's finished. Ash tells Charmander it was made especially for him, and there's some more outside if he wants some. The Pokemon gets up and starts to leave. With Ash already knowing where Charmander's going, he tells him that Damien's already waiting in the lobby for him, and Charmander happily runs out to see his former trainer, who looks annoyed looking down at the small lizard. He tells Charmander the truth. After getting an earful from both Misty and Brock all night, he's very apprehensive of lying at this point, telling the small fire lizard that he was planning on leaving him, all because he was so weak and he didn't want to deal with him. Charmander's heartbroken after this, as he looks at Damien upset. The evil trainer's allowed to leave, breaking free of Misty and Brock's grasp, before walking away from the Pokemon Center, smashing the ball that Charmander used to belong to, truly solidifying his release. As Charmander watches Damien leave, he sits sadly for a moment before Ash appears next to him, with his whole team in tow, explaining how he's not weak, he's far from it. He survived that in the rain as a fire type, and that's amazing. He should have, by all rights, probably not made it, but he's so strong he lived through it, and he wants to help Charmander reach his full potential, knowing that he's not a weak mon. So if Charmander would like it, he would like for him to join his team, and hopefully they can prove Damien wrong. Charmander looks sad for a second, before looking at Nidorino, Spearow, and Bulbasaur, who all seem pretty happy, and after Nidorino and Charmander talk for just a few seconds, Charmander agrees, as Ash brings out a Pokeball, and Charmander clicks the button with his paw, confirming its capture and joining Ash's team. However, it's on a much sadder note, thanks to Charmander not really having a chance to prove Damien wrong. Hopefully though, they can do it later on. Now, things play out like normal, with the journey leading up to the group meeting the Squirtle Squad. And thanks to the lack of Team Rocket present, Ash doesn't share the same moment with the turtle. And in fact, Misty is the one who chases down the Squirtles, in hopes to have one of them join her team. With her managing to befriend all of them, eventually she gets the offer from Officer Jenny for the Squirtle Squad to be hired, like normal. However, the leader still goes with Misty. Now, along their way to Vermilion City, Ash has been using Brock and Misty as sparring partners. At first, he was using Brock to practice Thrash with when Nidoran was still a Nidoran. However, now being a Nidorino, they've cut back a little bit just to learn the full aspects of its power. And once Bulbasaur and Charmander joined the team, they spent some time training them up as well, meaning that everyone's pretty well trained on Ash's squad, and he doesn't want anyone to be ahead of any others, meaning that they're all pretty even. Well, at least he's trying to make them be. And over this travel, Ash has tried to spend time bonding with Charmander. He's still very much upset about everything that happened with Damien, and he's in a bit of a slump. Ash is really trying to get along with the lizard, and he's doing a good job. He's feeding him, he's taking care of him, and they're having fun together, but the lizard just needs a bit more time to fully come to terms with the fact of what his former trainer did. And even now it shows that Charmander doesn't fully trust Ash, even though he's different. Now, eventually when they arrive in Vermilion City, Ash immediately wants to head to the gym. With Misty and Brock not having any objections to this, they first make a quick stop at the Pokemon Center and then head off towards the gym. Along the way, Ash shares how he can't wait to take on the gym, and is looking forward to seeing what this gym leader has to offer. As Misty even pipes up explaining how she might be interested in having a crack at the gym herself. This perks up Ash and Brock's ear, asking if the girl's planning on taking on the gym challenge. She says she's not sure at the moment, however she will see what happens. After all, she does have one badge currently, and it could be fun to collect them. Ash is excited at the possible thought of one of his travelling companions taking up gym battles, much like him. And once arriving at the gym, they actually catch Surge on his way in. As Surge asks why they're here, they explain how Ash is here for a gym battle, and is hoping to have it today. Surge laughs, saying how he's the second young man to be here today for a battle, and if he's anything like the last one, he'll happily take him on. Ash, interested, asks about the other trainer, Surge gives a very vague explanation, and Ash kind of matches up the description, asking for the name of the trainer. Surge says it was something Oak, something. Glalie? No, that's a Pokemon. Glasley? No. Ash pipes up asking if it was Gary, and Surge clicks his fingers, explaining how that was the one. And Ash can't believe he had managed to catch up with his rival, asking if Gary managed to win the battle. Surge says not only did the trainer win, but it was actually one of the best battles he has had in a while. Ash is excited to hear this, and he wants to know how well his Pokemon perform against Surge if Gary managed to be one of the best battles he's had. With Surge asking how the kid knows the other one, he explains how they're actually both sponsors of Oak. They left their journey on the same day, and they're actually really close friends and rivals. Surge, hearing this, is interested in Ash a lot more than he was finding himself originally, as he looks at the kid asking how many Pokemon he has. Ash explains at the moment he only has 4, and Surge asks if Ash would be willing to try a new format of gym battles he's been wanting to try out for a while for a tournament in another region. Ash is happy to agree, asking what the format will be. The Surge says it's a double battle. Ash is interested, agreeing, trying to figure out which 2 Pokemon to use, as Surge explains how he'll also be using 2 Pokemon he's been training up to possibly join his main rotation. Surge explains how they were probably around the same strength as his rival Gary's Pokemon, so if he's anywhere around the same strength, he shouldn't have any issues. This lights a fire in Ash's stomach, as he says how he refuses to lose now. Surge is happy to see this, as the Lightning Soldier sends out a Manectric and a Luxio. Both Pokemon give out a massive roar, as Ash realises he doesn't recognise either Pokemon. He tries the Dex, but doesn't have much luck. But he knows that they are more than likely electric types, and now just has to figure out who to send out. Knowing not to send out Spearow, being so there would be a huge type disadvantage, and also he wants to try out one of his new team members. So he begins thinking, and eventually decides on a team he likes. But that is where I'm leaving this part. Sorry for leaving it off right near a battle, but I just felt like this was a good little bit of a cliffhanger for people to come back to. I hope people enjoyed this part, and I hope they understand why I tried to give it a bit more of a narrative reason with Team Rocket at the start. I'm going to try and have somewhat of a story with them, being as though we've lost Jesse and James, and the original Kanto story doesn't really have any main plot line. I do want to try and give it something, instead of just telling a story of Ash going through the gym challenge, which will be the sole focus, but I will take some inspiration from the Pokemon manga and the Pokemon games, which hopefully will be alright. Alongside that, I hope people don't mind that other regional Pokemon are showing up. It wasn't something I planned on doing originally. I planned on having Ash just mostly go through Kanto normally. However, once I started going, I realised that could get pretty stale pretty fast. So I thought mixing it up could be a bit fun. So having some trainers use Pokemon from outside regions I thought could be fun. And even giving gym leaders some regional variants and Pokemon which would make sense on their teams, but they didn't necessarily have in the anime, would be a bit of a different stretch. I do hope people don't mind this. And every Pokemon I pull either is a canonical Pokemon they have, or inspired in some way from somewhere. For example, Damien having a Torracat is directly inspired from Cross in the Pokemon I Choose You anime, movie having a Incineroar. Being as though Cross and Damien are essentially supposed to play the same role, I thought it would be much more fun to have Damien have a Torracat, which would be a bit more reasonable for this point in the story. Much like with Agatha, who had an Alolan Marowak, it's a ghost type, it's a different ghost type instead of a Gengar, and I thought it would be a fun way to introduce Ash to regional variants, which may or may not be a thing that happens for him, I don't know. But with that being said, I do hope people enjoyed. I am happy that I managed to get Ash to have at least 2 of the Kanto starters, but without Team Rocket, I couldn't see the trainer getting any members of the Squirtle squad, and I'm at least happy I could have Misty have them, because the Squirtle Turtles are pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to doing the next part for this. Once again, like I said at the start of the video, I'm sorry Christmas was very dead for me, but like I said, I wanted to spend time with my family, I had other things I was doing, and it also gave me a chance to really stock up on some videos. At this point in time, I've stocked up 4 videos, which is almost a whole month's worth of videos for me. meaning I can actually have a bit of a chill month and also spend some time almost trying to get ahead so I don't fall behind like I normally do. Anyway, with that said, I do hope everyone enjoyed. Hopefully you have a good day, a good night, and please, I hope to see you again next time. Have a good one, guys.